Hello. Hello and welcome to jasonnewland.com. My name's Jason Newland. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. So this podcast, this video, this recording, I'm also streaming it live on TikTok, is predominantly just to help you relax and fall asleep, if you want to fall asleep. If you're listening live, it's more just for relaxation. But if you want to fall asleep, then I would suggest watching it back on video or listening to the podcast. You should need to be able to safely close your eyes. Also, if you are watching the video on TikTok or Instagram or wherever, I can only upload up to an hour, so you can watch the whole thing on YouTube or listening on my podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the main places. So that's it. It's been raining all day. It's raining, all day. All day it's been raining. And it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. It's just been going the whole time. Vinny's on the chair over there. Looks like he's meditating. He's just chilled out. He's got his head up, just staring ahead. Something I've noticed or realised lately, the last few weeks, is that listening to me, me listening to myself, I find that I get more relaxed. And I find myself interesting, believe it or not. I find myself getting really relaxed, and if I close my eyes, I do fall asleep. Maybe it's my voice, maybe it's not quite as exciting as I think it is. Maybe. I don't know. So hello to anyone that's watching me live. Hello to my YouTube people. Hello to my podcast audio listeners. Hello to those that are listening on my website. Hello to everybody in the world. Now today is Trivia Tuesday. Trivia Tuesday. So I'm going to be focusing. Part of the reason for this is because of AI, and I watch a lot of AI videos and forecasts, and they're talking about the changes in jobs and stuff. So I thought I'd look up on ChatGPT, because that's my assistant in these recordings, to give me the information. So it might not be true, might just be lies. Is jobs that no longer exist. It says 100 factual entries. I can't guarantee it's factual. So if you're getting into a big old argument with someone, and it's about, people that used to sweep chimneys, and one of you saying, they started sweeping chimneys at 6 years old, and then your other friend might say, no, they started, it was 7, and you're on the verge of having a tantrum over it because you want to be right. Don't, because this might not be true. Don't have a tantrum. Move along. Have a Kit Kat. So, apologies for the shirt. It's very bright. It's the only way I can take, really, the distract you from how red my face is if I wear something like really red or pink. Jason can sing. Thank you. You know what? I used to be able to sing. So hi everyone. I used to be able to sing, and as I got older, here's the thing, right? I think my voice is much younger than my face, than my body. But it's not catching up, but it's older than what it was. So when I was about 30, I sounded probably 18. When I was in my 40s, probably sounded in my 20s. You see what I mean? So by the time I get to my 70s or 80s, I might sound like I'm in my 50s, 40s or 50s. Because I seem to have a younger voice. Not when you watch me, it probably, because you're like, no. But if you didn't know what I looked like, and you just heard me on a podcast, you wouldn't be able to. If you was like really into listening to me, some people like listening to me. Hard to believe it's true. And if you just showed them a picture of me, and they didn't know what I looked like, and you say, "Who's that then?" Apart from, I mean, they might have to get up after collapsing from the shock of seeing me, but like, don't know. They wouldn't guess. They wouldn't guess it was me. And it's weird. I think that's why, see some radio DJs, they show pictures and you go onto their website or you go onto the radio website and it's pictures of them from like 30 years ago. Because they still sound the same. They still sound young. But some of them like in their 60s now. And they don't look the way they did when they were in their 30s because it's normal not to. But they still have a picture from like the 80s on there. Or 90s. Wow, 90s. So, this is... I feel like I'm introducing myself quite a bit, but this is it's not just like a relaxing session or just a opportunity to close your eyes and go to sleep, providing it's safe to do so. It's also, I don't know, can be company for those that, because especially like online, there's a lot of arguments online. There's a lot of people with opinions and wanting to shout and argue and wanting to be horrible to each other. It seems to be quite prevalent, and this isn't really that. This isn't... I don't mean podcasts when I say that, because podcasts are generally, the audio podcasts are pretty calm because it's pre-recorded, and but some of the live stuff, it can get out of hand. So this is just a bit of peace, bit of calm at the end of the day, or the beginning of your day, depending on where you're living. And that's all it is. It's nothing more than that. And anyone on live, I can't see your messages because they're so small. Because it's on my phone, you see, and it's over there. But if you'd like to join, if you have to follow me, but also I will read all the messages afterwards. Please make them nice. Please, 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 please. So, yeah. I think it's... every day is an opportunity to be nice. I don't mean all day long, like walking around and just being like a saint, but... I do wonder so being rude to people can be funny. It can be. I found it funny when I was younger, or being rude about people, or just being rude in itself. I mean, I say rude things, but I aim it at myself. So if you can aim the comedy at yourself. See, I make fun of how I look. I don't make fun of how other people look. I make fun of my own weight. I don't make fun of other people's weight. Usually. No, I don't. I make fun of myself being bald, not other people. Do you know why? Because I don't associate myself with bald people. I have nothing to do with them. They're an embarrassment to be around. No, of course I don't mean that. I'm bald by choice. Look, I do actually have hair. I just shave it. But on the back, I've got a bald patch. That's the bit that's... If you notice the difference in sound, like this, yeah? I don't know if you can hear that. Now hear the slap bit. It sounds different. That's why it's called a slaphead, because it literally does sound different. I think someone just said about their dad being a nice bloke. I think a lot of people are nice. In fact, I would say, and this is controversial, because if you read the newspapers or watch the news, you know, you'd think that everybody was horrible, wouldn't you? Especially every young person. Oh, I don't believe that. I think everybody's nice. Everybody's got the ability to be nice. It's just sometimes we get, whether off days or we get caught up in the wrong situation. But you just got to just look at a little kid. Kids aren't usually really cruel, are they? You ever see a little kid like handing out sweets, little candy or whatever? They'll get something and they hand it out, and they love it. They love handing it out and sharing it out. I don't do that. I don't share anything. Doesn't mean I'm horrible, but I think human beings are inherently kind. And I know people that have been in prison for long periods of time, yet if they see a person falling over in the street, they will go and help them up. They might steal their wallet, but they won't. But they will help them up, because that's the natural instinct that I think we all have, is to help other people. The instinct to cause harm, I don't think that's natural, in a sense other than like protecting ourselves or others that we care about. So, yeah, I don't know why I'm talking like that, but I suppose I want to try and reread that, what someone's just posted on here. Will you keep posting stranger... Oh, okay. Fair enough, it's people talking to each other. I'll have you know, love, we was his first friends because we defended him on live. Okay. I don't argue over me. I know I'm amazing, but it's... See, the thing is, I'll get on with the Trivia Tuesday, and I do appreciate everyone coming on there. I think it will be one of those things, because if you went on to... There's a channel with two blind people in their kitchen most of the time, cooking and talking and saying hi to each other, to people. Don't see any people being horrible to them. I mean, I ran out of horrible things to write down. It was terrible. Joking, obviously. There's a few other people with like, there's a lady on there with no arms that's, I think, in another country, and she's washing clothes in a bucket and stuff. People don't write horrible things to her. So it just shows you that we've all got our kind of kindness there. You know, there's a limit. I suppose I'm kind of fair game because maybe, well, I'm able-bodied, I'm just old. It's the only thing you can really pick on me for. Being old, looking old, whatever. You know, outside of that, you can go on what I look like, but what else? You tell me I've got a squeaky voice. Squeaky! Have I got a fish? No, I used to have, Amber. I used to have a fish. I had 3 fishes. One was called Popeye when I think I was 8 years old. And do you know the fairs you go to and you can like win stuff? But I think I must have hit some coconuts down or something in one of those Dodgem fair, you know, roundabout things, whatever they're called. Circus, but without animals. No, there's no crocodiles. And I won a goldfish called Popeye. I called him Popeye because he had one big eye. I didn't realise he was diseased because took him to the vet, and the vet seemed surprised because I don't know if he'd ever seen a goldfish before. People don't normally take goldfishes to a vet, do they? I did. I loved him. Not the vet. And so he had an eye disease, so I had to put these droplets into the water like 3 times a day or something. And yeah, he didn't last long, unfortunately. And then I had 2 goldfish when I moved in here. Just before I moved in, I had one called Milton, and the other one I think was called Ericsson. And it just didn't work out. I didn't evict them, like, you know, gave them 3 months notice. You got to get out, it's not working. I thought we could have a relationship, but there's 3 of us, too many. It's a crowd. I don't mean that, I mean just, you know, it's like it wasn't really, unfortunately they didn't last. But at the time, I had a ferret that kept trying to eat them. He didn't get to eat them, but he wanted to eat them. So I'm wondering whether or not he scared them. You know what I mean? So that might have happened. So other than that, really, the 2 main pets, although they're my children as far as I'm concerned, is Andre, my ferret, that I had 2015 to 2021, and Vinny, that I've had for just over 3 years, my little red Jack Russell over there. Amber says, I have a pet donkey at my yard. Wow, a pet donkey. He's called Ericsson too. Okay. I've never had, I called, you've got one in your room as well, Amber. Okay. So I don't know what's going on. There's people talking to each other there. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is go into the jobs that no longer exist. And this list is probably going to increase over the next few years, unfortunately. But hey, I'm not responsible for that. So but then whenever jobs like get lost, new jobs open. So lamplighter. Lit and extinguished street lamps by hand. Wow. I've seen that on film. So, you know the street lights that we have, lampposts and stuff, they actually used to be burned by gas or by some kind of, I don't know what it was, oil or something. So they used to light them in the morning, go up on a ladder, light them, and then come back in the evening and turn them off. And that was a job. That was their job, which is knocked up. So someone's asking me, do I like dairy milk or Milky Bar? It's 2 different things. It's not 2 different things, but I like dairy milk. Big chocolate. I'm not allowed to really eat it, but because my blood sugar level is not at... I'm just not supposed to eat lots of sugary stuff. Which is weird, because I used to be absolutely... I used to drink a lot of Coca-Cola. Other fizzy pops are available, apparently. Knock Her Up woke people before alarm clocks existed. Wow. When it said knock her up, I thought, when you said, I've been knocked up, I thought they were talking about that. So people actually... So before alarm clocks... The thing is, I reckon... Isn't that what the town bells were for? Maybe just to wake everyone up? Or in them days, they used to get woken up by cocks, didn't they? Going cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, like that. And people would wake up. Because, if you go back far enough, there was no street lights turning themselves on, at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning. And then, so they would be woken up during when it's sun. When the sun came up, they would wake up and they'd go to bed when it was dark, because there's no electricity. There's always been electricity in my life. Don't worry, I'm not that old. There was no electricity, and people didn't know really the difference about time. Like, it was just a case of, in the winter they got more sleep, in the summer they got less sleep. Ice cutter, and there was no television, no internet. Can you imagine that? No TikTok, no YouTube, no Facebook. So ice cutter cut blocks of ice from frozen lakes. Yeah, there used to be, this is what I've often wondered, is, not often, but I've wondered about, they talk about global warming, and when the ice pot, or a place in the world where there's lots of ice, when they melt, it will just flood everything. So why not remove that ice now while we can? Move the ice, take it to countries that don't have enough water. Spread out the water, and then when the ice caps melt, it won't cause flooding, because we've already kind of reduced the water. We've reduced the ice. But then we've also saved people's lives by putting it into places where, like in deserts, where we need water. So I'm seeing some people saying, I don't know, I can't read a lot of the words, because as you can see, I've got these big goggles on. So it's not... I won't be able to see what's being said on the until I've actually finished, really. Me and Jace like this. Okay. I haven't been called Jace for a while. Ice cutter, rat catcher, controlled rat populations before pest control services. I'm in London, and it was a big issue, wasn't it? Here's my lack of ignorance, probably. Didn't the Great Fire of London kind of put the end to the plague in London? Am I wrong, or am I just completely out with that one? But it was the fleas, wasn't it? Not the actual rats. But technically, if a flea's on a rat, you can say it's the humans, not the motorbikes, that's causing the problems. But it's still the motorbike, isn't it? Just because a human is riding on the motorbike doesn't exclude the motorbike from the situation. Toshers. Searched sewers for valuable items. I'm pretty sure there's still people doing that. You see people on beaches with those what's it, magnifying things, whatever, metal detectors, pretending they're just like, they're looking for stuff. You know, they come out in the summer. They come out when everyone's gone home. They're looking for watches, jewellery. That's what they're looking for. Come on. They're looking for people's stuff. And they'll find a lot of it. Ice cutter. Cut blocks of ice from frozen lakes. Tossers. Searching sewers. I mean, I probably wouldn't want to do that, if I'm honest. Yeah, I don't think I would. Everyone's left the live chat now. Mudlark. Collected usable objects from riverbanks. Collected usable objects from... So I guess, is that just stuff that's kind of... washed in, maybe? Leech collector. Gathered leeches for medical use. Here's a question. When you pick up a leech, do you have to be careful how you pick it up, or will it get stuck to you? Because they've got suckers, haven't they? Like, do you have to, pick it up in a certain way? I don't think I've ever even seen a leech off the TV screen. I've met a few leeches, but I haven't seen any, Fuller. Cleaned and thickened woolen cloth. Cleaned and thickened woolen cloth. So that sounds like a thing rather than a job. A fuller. Okay. Dock labourer, casual hire. Hired daily without contracts. That went on, I think, for centuries. That was still going on in the 80s, I think. In fact, that was still going on in the 90s. Maybe not on the dock so much, but it just turned into agencies. So people join agencies and get a day's work. Maybe two, maybe more, depending on whether or not they were liked or they were needed. But no contract, no guarantee of any work. And especially during the, what do they call it? Like in America, there was a time when people used to queue up, in this country as well, they just queue up for work, see if there's any work for the day. I'm glad it's not like that now. That was, there's actually a movie about it, isn't there, called Hard Times, with Charles Bronson, but also it was named Street Fighter. And he made his money by just travelling around, getting odd jobs on the railways, on the building sites, and then having a punch up if he got paid. Powder monkey? What's a powder monkey? Oops. A powder monkey carried gunpowder on naval ships. Can you imagine if your job was to carry gunpowder? Right. First of all, if your job was to carry gunpowder, like hugely volatile, hugely dangerous, could go off at any minute, right? First of all, you ought to get paid a lot of money. Secondly, you're not going to want to be called a monkey, are you? Like, carrying it and saying, calling you a monkey. Would you call me? Chuck it at them. No, it's gunpowder, wow. Domestic and service jobs. Scullery maid. Clean dishes and kitchen areas. Well, I've done that. So, when I did it, it was called a kitchen porter. So maybe, I don't know. No one called me a scullery maid. Cleaning dishes, washing plates, keeping the area clean and tidy. Housemaid. maintained household cleanliness. See, a lot of these jobs it came from people that were, like in America, for example, they were told that they were free. You're freed. You're a free man, a free woman. You know, we can no longer tell you what to do, and you no longer work for no money. And they ask, well, what can we do? What jobs can we do? Well, you can do the same job you used to do before, and the money will basically give you somewhere to live, and you get paid practically nothing. But you're free. You can leave. You won't be able to do anything. You're still going to be treated the same, but you're free, okay? Okay. So yeah, that was weird. Domestic and service jobs. I mean, housemaid, footman, valet, page boy. So we had a lot of that with the hierarchy, with the higher class people. So royalty and the people that got, I don't want to get all political, but a lot of the people that became really rich came rich because of the, I don't want to say the word, but, you know, through other people's misfortune, let's say. And they're the ones that are, like, super wealthy through generations. And some of those people, they've just grown up knowing nothing else but having people serve on them. And I don't knock it, because I'd love people to serve on me. I want people to, that'd be brilliant. I don't know if I want someone walking into my bedroom with a cup of tea. I've never had that. I don't know what that would be like. What if they tripped and the tea fell on me and scalded my, you know, knee? I don't know. A housemaid. I mean, I did wonder about that as well. Like a housekeeper. Someone that could, I mean, it would be no point having a housekeeper in a flat this size. It'd need to be a big property, otherwise you're just going to get in the way of each other. But I think it would be nice to have someone that would like clean everything up and make everything nice and tidy, and have someone to cook me dinners and make the bed and iron my clothes, or iron my clothes. Not that I don't really need ironing. Most of my clothes are just baggy, so apart from those that aren't. So, I don't know. It's a bit of a dream, really, isn't it? I mean, a valet, isn't that managed clothing? I thought they were talking about like cleaning cars. Managed clothing and personal care. So you marry your clothing. I don't know. Would I draw the line at having someone help me to dress? That'd have to be depending on who it was, I think. You know, if I'm able to dress myself, it seemed quite weird to have someone do it for me. Someone giving me a bath, maybe, help me with that, because it's hard to, like, you know, scratch your own back, isn't it? Brush your own. I mean, you've got loofahs and stuff, but I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. Outside of a romantic relationship, probably not. Someone to do the laundry. Now, I've had people do laundry for me. The laundrette lady. I was quite good friends with one in London. You can't not be friends with someone that washes your underwear. You got to be on friendly terms. I mean, I realised I'm taking my laundry in her every week of the year, and she's nice to me. Now, who else is going to be friendly to me after, just... So, yeah, best friends for life, really. Page boy, delivering messages and assisted nobility. Nobility? I suppose, a page boy, that's probably what pages were called, pages. Because in this country, or at least in my world, we didn't have pages. Pages were around, but we had mobile phones in the 90s. Didn't have pages. Page me. Here's my pager number. I think it was quite big in America, and it might have been quite big in certain circles in the UK, but I never knew one person that had a pager at all. You see it in the movies, don't you, when a doctor said, "Oh, got a pager, got to make a phone call." Well, now obviously they just pick the phone up, can't they? Chamber pot emptier. That's got to be quite low down, isn't it? Quite low down on the workforce. If you was in a pub and you'd met someone that you liked, and you asked them what they did, and then they asked you what you did, what would you say? I remove waste I remove waste from the pot that has been used as a toilet. Because did you know, this is before indoor plumbing, when toilets came into the UK, or into England, let's stick to England, I don't know about everywhere, but in England, when toilets were kind of a thing, indoor toilets, because we had outdoor toilets for a long time, people didn't want indoor toilets. This is genuine. You might find this hard to believe, but they didn't want indoor toilets. They thought it was disgusting. The idea of doing that in here, inside. There's still some traditions that feel the same way, but they kind of couldn't get their head around it. Even though going outside in the freezing cold, in the middle of winter, with no lights, would have been atrocious. Yet people still preferred that than being in the warm and having some kind of comfort. Eventually, people came round to the idea, but it's amazing. I've lived in places with outdoor toilets, when I was a kid, because a lot of places, like council houses, they'd have an outdoor toilet. They might also have an indoor toilet, but the outdoor toilet was still there. It's basically just like a little hut, like a little shed, really. Or it might be an extra room added on to the house. So when I moved into the big house we moved into when I was 9, there was an outside toilet, but it was literally attached to the house, so it wasn't like at the bottom of the garden, and it was still cold as anything, and it was used as a tool shed, really, but it was still an outside toilet, but it wasn't technically, it was inside, but it wasn't, A charwoman. Who's a charwoman? A charwoman, part-time cleaner in private homes. Okay, I could do with a part-time cleaner. Just someone just to sort out the mess. Really, that'd be nice. A boot black. Cleaned and polished shoes professionally. I mean, if I didn't have to bend down, not that that would have bothered me when I was a kid, but polishing shoes is okay. I used to do that in the Sea Cadets. It's quite relaxing, actually. I used to spend hours polishing my shoes because they had to be shiny at the end, on the end of the, like where the toes is, of the boots. So I used to like use a metal spoon and wax and like a lighter, and we'd kind of do lots of circles until it was almost like a mirror. And then I'd go to the Sea Cadets, and someone would stand on them. Yeah. Sometimes it was the instructors or the people in charge. Like, I don't know. I think some of the people that do those, even though it's voluntary, scout leaders and Sea Cadets, Army Cadets, I think some of them just, like teachers, maybe enjoy a bit of power. A little bit of power, maybe. Not all, but maybe the odd one. Wet nurse. That sounds like I'd like to be a wet nurse. What does that mean? Breastfed another person's infant. How would I do that? I wouldn't know how to do that. So how does that work? I mean, you'd have to have... do you just pretend to have milk and just out of a little hole, and I don't know, an icing bag? So, medical and health related. Plague doctor. Treated plague victims. Well, I'm glad that job's not around anymore. We don't want that. This is just... If you didn't know about this, this is absolutely ridiculous. There was a time when if you were ill, toothache, you were ill, you went to your barber surgeon. The same person that cut your hair might remove your appendix or something like that. I mean, I'm glad they don't do that anymore. Them haircuts were awful. Leech applier. Applied leeches during treatments. I mean, that was all part of letting blood, wasn't it? The idea was if they released some of the leeches, would take the impurities out of the body and stuff. I don't know. I don't think it's used quite as often. Bone setter. Treated fractures without formal training. But why are they called bone setters if they didn't have formal training? I mean, does that mean they weren't doctors or they weren't nurses? But if they were doing that all the time, then they probably were really good at it. But if they weren't really good at it, they might have caused a lot of problems. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Bloodletter. Okay, right. So that's the same thing as earlier. Asylum attendant. Supervised patients in early mental hospitals. So mental health hospitals, or whatever they're called now, used to be called asylums. And for those that don't know, they weren't nice places. Resurrectionist. Dug up bodies for medical study. I thought that was illegal. My local police told me it wasn't allowed. Apothecary. Prepared and sold medicines. Apothecary. Apothecary. I can't say the word. Midwife, unregulated, practiced before modern licensing. Okay. Yeah, but it's good that midwives are around, isn't it? Because babies have always been being born, haven't they? I didn't know that dogs can have cesareans. Didn't know that until the other day. A lady in a park told me. She just jumped out of some bushes and said, dogs can have cesareans, and then jumped back in again. It's very strange. Then she started playing the trumpet. Sanitary inspector. Pre-modern. Managed waste and hygiene. I thought there'd be some nicer jobs here. These are, I might as well have just put in, list me the grottiest jobs that you can think of. But maybe that's what happens with progress. The jobs that people didn't like doing got dropped, and the new inventions found a cure for that, find a replacement for that stuff. So an outside toilet mucking out and all that stuff was replaced by an indoor toilet that flushes. Turning the lights off manually, electricity came along, so people didn't have to do that job, which I guess is quite dangerous, walking up and down a ladder all weathers and stuff. But yeah. So this is communication and information. Town crier. So announced news publicly. And I think they would just shout. I'm sure I've seen it on the TV, like, ayo, 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 listen up, listen up. I don't know, something like that. I'm using my hand, that's the bell. Town crier. Someone just speak very loudly. I mean, I've just seen it on TV and movies, so I don't know if it was like that or not. It'd be like in a town square. Telegraph operator sent Morse code messages. Yep. I thought telegraph operators just sent telegraphs as well. It's not just Morse code, is it? Because people used to get telegraphs to other countries. It'd be, I guess it was the precursor to the fax machine, which is a precursor to emails, I suppose, which was a precursor to texting. Although you wouldn't necessarily use a text, would you, for a business and thing, but telex machines. Yeah, telegraph, then telex, then fax. But we had a telex machine. I couldn't figure it out. I had a couple of jobs where I used it. Very much found it difficult to use it. I think it's one of those things you just need to use all the time for a little while, and you get used to it, and it's like easy. For me, I just found it difficult. I don't know why. But at that time, I had no computer experience, never used a computer, didn't know, there was no internet. There wasn't really any need for computers when I was young. They were being used, but it was like optional. It wasn't like now where you have to, everything is kind of computerized. Line O type operator. Operate the line casting machine. Okay. Newsboy. Sold newspapers on the streets. So, alright, so the only time I've ever seen people selling newspapers on the streets was in London, and they used to sell the Evening Standard. and they would shout out Evening Standard, but it wasn't Evening Standard. It was, I think they started off shouting like Evening Standard, Evening Standard, and they'd have a big pile, and people would come up and give them £1 or whatever it was, 50p, and they'd give them the paper, and it'd be full of adverts, and it's very popular. Every tube station would have them outside and inside, and Liverpool Street would probably have about 6 different sellers, like just in front of the train station, because there was so many people coming and going. And it turned from being Evening Standard to like they completely didn't even attempt to say the word anymore. Or maybe they thought they were saying it, but it was just and I thought, are they aware of that? Why don't they just have a machine that just shouts out Evening Standard? Just repeats this Evening Standard, waits for maybe 5 seconds, Evening Standard, Evening Standard, Evening Standard, instead of like doing it yourself, because they completely just, it's almost like they forgot what they were saying. But I never saw newspaper boys or newsboys doing that. It was always adults. And then, of course, at the Evening Standard, they gave it away free and no one wanted it. So when they were selling it, people wanted it. Maybe not enough people, because they wouldn't have gone free otherwise, I suppose, if everyone was buying. But they got to the point where they couldn't even give them away. And Evening Standard was a really good newspaper, especially if you're looking for work or you want to know what's going on in London and what, just things going out for nights time things and, things like that. It was a good newspaper. Maybe it is now, but there was a period when I used to watch and they couldn't even give them away. But people would stop and buy them when they're for sale. Go figure. Unless they just filled them just with so many adverts. So they were free. They just filled them with adverts and people just didn't want to watch adverts or read adverts. And if you go onto the tube stations or the trains, rather the tubes or the trains, the buses, it's just Evening Standards everywhere. So a lot of people probably think, well, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to get it. I'll just read it on the bus. That's the driver. Copyist. Hand copied documents. Wow. Now, I've done that. Not documents, but I've written out books in the past. I've literally copied word for word books, whole books, into a pad. Don't ask me why. I thought that the information, the knowledge might actually stick in my head. This is true. I've literally written down whole books. I just remember doing that. It's a long time since I've done it. I just remember. I had an idea that it would be a very educational thing to do and a way for me to really learn the subject matter and also to skim through it and mark out different bits. Maybe it was, I don't know. But imagine copying hand-copied documents, which would be now done in a photocopier, like instantly. But people used to actually do it by hand. Wow. I mean, do you remember before, like typing, before they had the carbon copy thing so they could type more than one thing, that was already done just one sheet at a time. You have to keep doing it again. And then, of course, photocopies came in, so you didn't have to do all that, and then computers and all that. But, wow. Dictation typists. See, I could never in my wildest dreams have ever done anything like that. Typed spoken correspondence. I can't even speak at human speed, never mind write at human speed and keep up. Just couldn't do it. I've tried. When I was at college, I used to try and sort of keep notes. Couldn't do it. Or even copy what was on the board. I just couldn't. It was never enough time. Just like when I'm watching a video on YouTube and there's a screen and then it moves to the next screen and I've not had chance to read it. Perhaps I just read so slowly. I don't know why. A human computer performed calculations manually. That's probably another one that I would never have done. I suppose that would have been called a human abacus before that. I mean, some people just have that skill, don't they? They just automatically have the skill to work out calculations in their head, and it automatically happens. And I've always been like, wow, that's amazing. What an amazing skill to have. Travel and transport. Stagecoach driver drove horse-drawn passengers coaches. Ah. So I've never seen that outside of, I think in London maybe they sometimes have horse and carts, don't they? Which you can hire. But not really in my life has it been a thing. I think it all changed in when the cars were invented, 100 odd years ago. Horse groom transport. Maintained working horses. Horses. Ah. So it'd be basically like engineers. Today's engineers, but they would maintain the horses. So I suppose check its feet, make sure it's eating and, I don't know, rested. Railway, I wonder if they had the little hole in the ground so they could work on it from below. Like they do with engineers and mechanics. Railway porter, traditional, carried luggage and assisted passengers. Wouldn't that be nice if there still was just someone there to help you carry your stuff onto the train, onto the bus, whatever. Oh, that'd be lovely. Signal man manual. Operated railway signals by hand. That was still a thing in my lifetime. It might still be in some places, but I think it's very few. But when a little town that I grew up, there was a railway signal office, like a thing, and someone was there and they would let the trains go through and back. So it'd be done by hand. So yeah, I don't know if it's still going. There might be parts of the country. So maybe it is completely defunct now, but it was still around. It was, like me, very round. A ticket puncher. Not what it sounds. They didn't actually punch tickets, but they put like holes in them. So they would clip them. I think they were called clippers actually. That was their short term for the names. So someone bought a ticket. They put like a hole through it, which showed that it had been used, or it'd be like a long line, showed that it had been used, so they couldn't use it again. Canal lock keeper. Operated locks by hands. And by hand, it's the same thing really as the signalman. So they would all be done by hand. It might still be, I don't know. I mean, this is a list of old jobs that aren't really around anymore. So elevator operator controlled lifts manually. I think there's still places in the world that have lift operators, maybe really high class hotels and stuff, but the lifts aren't actually operated by the person in the lift. They just press the buttons for you. I think, you know, before they used to like close the cage and all the lights gone off on my thing. Wait a second. So yeah, I think the old lifts or elevators, they used to have like cages, didn't they? So it needed a manual activation to do it. Maybe they had their own key, perhaps. Toll collector collected rolled tolls. The thing about tolls, I thought the whole idea of a road toll was to pay for the cost of building the road, and then once the cost has been brought back, then there's no longer a toll needed, is there? Carriage builder built horse-drawn vehicles. So they were kind of the precursor to cars, obviously, and coaches. Wheelwright made wooden wheels. Ooh. Craft and manufacturing. Anyone's interested in this? I'm so excited. Been looking forward to this for ages. A spindle spinner. A spindle spinner. Spun thread by hand. A hand loom weaver. Wove textiles manually. Okay. A weaver. Is that a thing where you put the things through? It's like a big string thing. You just put the thing through it and thread and push it down, and eventually it ends up being something. I don't know, like a blanket or something like that. A cooper made wooden barrels. And then you've got a cobbler, so that's a person that makes shoes by hand, traditional. I would have thought that there would still be money in making shoes by hand. In fact, I'd have thought there'd be a lot of money for someone that could do that. To make bespoke shoes, you go in, you get your feet measured, and they make shoes specifically for you. And yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money, but they're probably going to be the most comfortable shoes you ever have, and chances are you're going to be a repeat customer. So it seems to me like that'd be a really good job. But they used to be around when I was a kid. They still used to be around, and you'd see them with nails, little nails sticking out their mouths, like little pins sticking out their mouths. And I thought, that's a bit dangerous. And I think it'd be more like shoe repairing. So cobblers would still be they wouldn't necessarily be making shoes, but they'd be repairing shoes. So they'd be knocking these little nails into the shoes, maybe replacing the soles or stuff like that. And but they have all these little nails sticking out their mouth. I just had that memory. It's weird, isn't it? We used to have one near where I lived. Blacksmiths, general, forged everything, everyday iron goods or iron goods. You'd think there'd be good money in that kind of work, wouldn't you? It's very hard labour work, and it's got to be strong. It's very, very warm because of the heat and stuff. But I'd have thought that it would be like you'd never be without work back then, anyway. In fact, I'm surprised that it's not still a thing where people say, "Well, I quite like." But what would you want out of iron? What would I ever want built out of iron? I don't know. Unless you made anvils for other blacksmiths. Be like a pyramid service, so a bit of a pyramid thing, couldn't it? So everybody makes anvils, big iron anvils and tools for other blacksmiths to sell to other blacksmiths to sell to other blacksmiths, and then right at the bottom they've got no one to sell to because it's done, but at the top they're the original sellers and they're making money off everyone. And then they all, eventually they all look up and realise that they're actually not making anything. All they're doing is selling the tools to make stuff to people that have nothing to make. Ah, that's interesting. Bell founder. Someone that cast church bells. I like the idea of being a church ringer, like a church bell ringer or like a town bell ringer. You know, pulling the ropes like ding, dong, ding, dong. I don't know, whatever the sound is. Tanner manual, processing hides. Button maker, make buttons from natural materials. Oh, buttons as in like on a like a shirt and stuff. Matchmaker. So matchmaker, not the chocolates and not the dating version. It produces matches by hand. That would have been a huge. I reckon thousands of people did that job at one point. A pin maker produces sewing pins. I mean, you got to have tiny little hands to do that, wouldn't you? Can you imagine trying to make a sewing pin? I mean, it's so little to start with. How do you make the hole? Because the hole's small. In fact, why don't they make the hole bigger and have it so it kind of squeezes, it's like bendy, so you know you could kind of push it through, but it doesn't. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking really. Never mind. What a pin maker, match it. Oh, okay. Maritime and fishing. Harpooning. I don't want to go there. Sail making sails by hand. That must have been a really good thing because there used to be sails, didn't there, in boats and stuff. Ship's lookout. Watched for hazards without instruments. Ahoy there! Look, there's a seagull. I'm just practicing. What do they call it? Is it the chicken's nest? You know, right at the top of the ship, it's like a little thing, and they would stand bird's eye, and they would stand on it, and they could see sort of all the way around themselves. Bird's nest, is it called the bird's nest? Ballast hauler, loading ships with stone ballast. Blimey. When you think about it, people did all that stuff before. I mean, there was no forklift trucks at one point. There was no mechanical engines to help to lift heavy stuff. How on earth did they do it? I mean, seriously, it's like, wow. I knew it probably had pulley systems and stuff, but still, wow. It's amazing. The kind of the creativity needed back then to build stuff. I mean, his houses built, you know, massive buildings built and stuff hundreds, thousands of years ago, still here. And guaranteed, this building wouldn't still be here in thousands of years. It's not built that way. Look at not the triangles, the pyramids. They're still there after literally thousands of years. I don't know what it's like inside though. Are you allowed inside? Is it comfortable? I don't know. Is there electricity in there? Have they got living rooms, toilets? I don't know. Because they were actually buildings, wasn't they? Well, they had people in there. Dock porter loaded and unloaded ships manually. Hard job. A fishwife. Sexist. Sold fish directly from the docks. See? Women did used to do things back then. A fishwife. Isn't it weird? You got men, like, so many jobs with the word man in it. And the only two that you got with the word wife in it is midwife and fishwife. Yeah, so many of these jobs would have been done by women as well. And that's sold fish directly from the docks. Lighthouse keeper and maintained oil lamps and lenses. That would have suited me. A lighthouse keeper. Solitary. I don't need to be around people. Peaceful. Yeah, that would have been good. Definitely could have done that. I still would if I got a chance. Maybe not now, but when I was younger, a lighthouse keeper. Oh, brilliant. Just keeping an eye on everything. Make sure everything's clean. Especially in the summer. How cool would it be in the summer just to stand on the top and just watch the penguins? I guess it's going to depend where you are, because I know penguins don't live everywhere. River ferrymen rode passengers across rivers. Still do. There's a place not far from where my dad lives where they still have that. There's a little bit where the docks are at the end of one part of a bit of land and another part, and they take this little rowboat across like once an hour. River ferrymen. Still there. Still around. Anchorsmith. Forged ship anchors. Wow. You'd think you'd need like a proper machine to do that. How does a human being make something that big? Caulker. Sealed ship seams with bar and fibre. Vinny was just barking there. Don't know quite why. Why? Dung collector. Gathered animal waste for fertiliser. I wonder if any of these jobs had interviews. Because imagine if it was today, you'd have to have a CV, show that you got your experience, prove that you are who you are, prove that you've lived where your address, your name, national insurance number and all that stuff. And at the end of it said, yeah, it's fine, you got the job. Here's a bucket and a shovel. Watchman. Guarded streets at night. We need that back. I mean, yeah. Why did we stop guarding the streets? That seems like an obvious thing that needs to still be done. A beadle. Enforced parish order. I don't know what that means. Anyone? Poorhouse master. Managed workhouses. Yeah. Workhouses. They was a thing, weren't they? So didn't you have to go to a workhouse if you owed money? Almona, a distributed charity. That's a nice name, Almona, distributed charity. So cool. So I guess that's someone that was wealthy. Wax tax assessor, manual, calculated taxes without records systems. Wow. So basically they could make it up as they go along. I imagine they were the highest earners out of everyone. A fire watcher, looked for fires from towers. I mean, that's just... I wonder if we went a little bit back to that. Just having some people and their jobs was literally just to look out. I know there's fire alarms and there's telephones, but someone just to keep an eye out, you know? Look out for people as their job. And you might say, yeah, that's what we've got police for, but I'm talking about people that are not there to arrest anyone or to solve crimes, just to keep an eye out to make sure everything's okay. Ale tester, checked beer quality. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the episode of Cheers where Norm gets a job where he's testing beer, and he goes into the where they make the beer, and he's walking up to the big vats, and he's kissing them. He's like he's waited his whole life to do this. It's funny. Sin eater. A sin eater symbolically absorbs sins of the dead. Oh. Yeah. I mean, you get the job? How are you proving you can? How do you prove that you're doing the job though? How does that yearly appraisal work out? Well, this will let you know you're doing really well. Thanks. How do you know? Gong farmer. Cleaned cesspits. Ooh. Resin collector. Harvested tree resin. Okay, that sounds like an interesting thing. Pearl button sorter. Graded buttons by hand. See, if people like buttons, you know, some people are going to enjoy doing that. They're going to love it. Candle sniffer. Oh, candle snuffer, sorry. Maintain candle lighting in large buildings. Balloon observer. Spotted enemy movements. See, I just like that, like a candle snuffer. Again, looking out, just watching, attending stuff, making sure everything's safe, you know? Instead of like, let someone else look after it, let someone else deal with it. Like, yeah, okay, let's take responsibility. A fur puller. I'm wondering what this could be. Removed hair from hides. It's not as rude as it sounds. A bone collector. Collected bones for fertilizer. Really? Evaporated seawater to produce salt. See, I didn't know. I knew there's salt in the water, seawater, so we can't drink it. Well, apart from the fact that it's probably full of other stuff that shouldn't really be taken into our bodies, but I didn't realise is that where we get salt from? I thought we got it from the ground. But it makes sense, doesn't it? Huh. The last 10 is administrative and miscellaneous. So Scrivener, a professional writer of legal documents, because wasn't that the name of like a typewriter thing? Yeah, Scrivener. Court messenger, delivering court documents. Exciseman, collected taxes on goods. Land measurer, pre-survey, measured land by pacing. Census enumerator, paper only, collected data manually. Boob finder, book binder, manual, bound books entirely by hand. So that's I'm sure there's people still do that. It's probably, I mean, it's not like a big, well-known job, but I'm sure people do still do that, because you can still buy books that are bound up. Map colorists, hand-coloured maps. I guess this is before printing. Letter sorter, so sorted mail by hand routes. I guess that was still done. It wasn't that long ago that was still being done. Watchmaker, mass, made entire watches alone. Really? To sit there and make an entire watch from scratch is phenomenal. When you you think it was all bits and bobs. It wasn't like you put a battery in, you put the cover on. I mean, this is actually, wow. Timekeeper, industrial, recorded worker hours manually. Can you imagine that as your job? Just keeping an eye on people's times. Like, when did you get in? When did you get in? Okay. When did you leave? When did you leave? Okay. And that's your full-time job. I mean, I understand there might be different shifts and stuff, and there might be thousands of people to deal with, but wow. It's not a bad little job to have, is it? That, ladies and gentlemen, seems to be all of the 100. Yeah, seems to be it. We started off quite well with the old TikTok. While we were started, and then because I wasn't able to reply to a lot of people's messages, I think people got a little bit bored and left. But it's just hard because I'm streaming on my phone, which is over there. I can hardly see the writing. So and at the same time, because I'm making a podcast and I'm making a video, I don't want to kind of keep interrupting what I'm saying by answering some questions. A lot of the questions are just silly, but there's the occasional ones that are genuine questions. So apologies if I missed your questions. So I'm going to go. I'm thinking of having a cornetto. What's the time? Well, it's 9:45. I'm thinking of having myself a cornetto. Watching EastEnders. And yeah, I would have some cake, but I've got no cake. I would have some chocolate, but I've got no chocolate. So cornetto I'll have to do. Damn. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember to be kind to yourself, because you do deserve to be happy. Be gentle with yourself. You deserve to feel safe. And also remember that you're already enough. And you're going to be okay. Lots of love. Bye.